Question number 9, Grant Robertson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Associate Minister of Health. Does he stand by all the answers he gave on behalf of the Minister of Health to oral question number 8 last Tuesday?
Honourable Jonathan Coleman. Grant Robertson.
Did he or his office receive an email last Monday from Auckland woman Jo Highton that said that she and her husband had been, quote, nearly been killed, unquote, after an attack by a patient who had been released from the Auckland DHB acute mental health unit, an attack that left her husband with 2 skull fractures, 65 stitches and had traumatised her family?
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker, point of order, the Honourable Jonathan Coleman.
Just refer you to Standing Order 111. This is a matter which is currently before the courts. Now, I know you have discretion as to whether that question can be asked, but I can't answer relating to that matter for the very reason that it's not in the public interest and it may prejudice the case.
It's perfectly within the Minister's rights to make that decision. Doesn't need my approval. If the matter is, in the Minister's view, not in the public interest to be answered because it's before the courts, then that's perfectly reasonable. Point of order, the Honourable Trevor.
Mr Speaker, I know that there is an absolute discretion here, but it's certainly not under 111. The question was nothing to do with any matter before the court. It was, did he receive an email? And that cannot, sir, possibly affect a judicial decision, whether the Minister received an email or not.
Well, it's up to the Minister to decide whether answering that question may compromise any, if it's believed that bringing the Minister into the issue could compromise the case. That is not for me to determine. Obviously, other members and the public will judge the Minister's judgment in terms of whether it's not in the public interest to reply, but the Minister has indicated in his view it's not in the public interest to reply to that question, and I must respect that. For the Honourable Trevor Mallard, for the point of order.
Speaker, I'm now at somewhat of a loss because I think there's been an understanding reached between the National Party and the Labour Party with regard changes to standing orders, some of which go very close to this particular question and certainly go to a question of trust, sir. No one, I don't think anyone believes that a judicial decision could be changed by that, and for a Minister to claim that it could be, sir, is something which could well upset the acceptance by this party of
order.
a unanimous
Order. The member resume his seat. You don't get into threats like that when a Minister... It's not becoming. But the Minister, in his view, believes the circumstances are such that it's not in the public interest to answer the question. Now, others will judge that, and further supplementary questions can be tested, and we'll just have to see if the Minister considers any of them to be in the public interest to answer. But at the end of the day, the people heard the question, and they've heard the point of order the member made, and they'll judge the Minister's judgment and whether or not he should be answering the question in the public interest. Grant Robertson, supplementary question.
Can he confirm the report in the Herald on Sunday, this past Sunday, that Jo Highton sent an email to his office last Monday saying that she and her husband had been, quote, nearly been killed after an attack by a patient who had been released from the Auckland DHB acute mental health unit, an attack that left her husband with 2 skull fractures, 65 stitches and had traumatised her family?
The Honourable Jonathan Coleman.
Mr Speaker, as I said in my answer to the first supplementary, I'm not going to comment on this case because it is before the courts.
Supplementary question, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Did his office receive an email as described in the last supplementary question?
The Honourable Jonathan Coleman.
See answers to supplementaries 1 and 2.
Grant Robertson, supplementary question.
In light of the email that Jo Highton told the Herald on Sunday she sent the Minister last Monday, why did he say in the House last Tuesday that there had been, quote, a marked improvement in the way patients are being managed at the Auckland District Health Board acute mental health unit, an answer that left Jo Highton saying that it sounded like the Minister was wiping his hands clean of dealing with problems at the unit?
The Honourable Jonathan... point of order, the Honourable Gerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, I think that question falls well short of 3711B.
Order. Now, order. Some senior members may be leaving this chamber unless they start behaving. A point of order was raised by the Honourable Gerry Brownlee, one of their senior colleagues. I'm taking it seriously, and other members of the House would be wise to do so as well. The member has referred to Standing Order 371B, 371(1)B, and the issue in 1B is that questions shouldn't contain arguments, inferences, imputations, epithets, ironical expressions or expressions of opinion. The questioner cited a newspaper story with respect to a supposed email being sent to the Minister's office and asked the Minister why the Minister told the House that he believed things were improved or whatever in this mental health unit. And I don't see how that question is ruled out by 371(1)B, because the questioner has not inserted any of his own opinion. He has just cited a newspaper story, as I heard the question. Now, if I was wrong there, I'm happy to be corrected, but I think the Minister is entitled to be asked that question, at least the questioner. Grant Robertson is entitled to ask that question. Point of order, the Honourable Gerry Brownlee.
Mr. Speaker, my point is that the question was couched with the words "in light of." Now that immediately it leads to the fact of, or the statement in the newspaper being a fact which the member is now expressing as part of his opinion and asking that question. I think when you consider the whole context of the nature of the questioning, the response from the Minister to three previous supplementary questions, then it can only be construed that it's just another way of trying to get at exactly the same stuff. And I think, Mr. Speaker, that you would have to say it does contain an expression of opinion, because the member is asserting that what was in the newspaper article was in fact the case, where there's been no confirmation of that in the House today.
I'll hear the Honourable David Parker.
It's quite an order for Mr Robertson to put that question. It's also quite an order for the Minister, if he denies that, to say it's wrong. But the question's quite proper, I would put it, as you have already ruled.
And dealing with this matter, I mean, the point raised by the Honourable Gerry Brownlee is a relevant issue, that with supplementary questions we do need to be careful. I tend to allow them because ministers are free to refute expressions of opinion that are inserted into, or statements of supposed fact that are inserted into questions. I don't rule them out, even though some of them may be out of order. In this particular case, though, the member is allegedly quoting a newspaper, and newspaper stories can be used to validate primary questions even. And now I obviously can't ascertain whether or not the newspaper does contain this claim or not, but I've got to take the member basically at his word that there is a newspaper story that makes this claim. And it's up to the Minister. If the Minister considers it not in the public interest to answer the question, the Minister is perfectly at liberty to do that. The public interest can only be judged by the Minister, not by the Speaker. Reference to the particulars of a case is certainly not in order. General principles involved normally, traditionally, have been able to be discussed in this House without being a breach of our normal consideration of matters before the court. And so I invite Grant Robertson to repeat his question, and the Minister knows it's his judgment as to whether or not it's in the public interest to answer it. Grant Robertson.
Supplementary question. In light of Auckland woman Jo Highton saying in the Herald on last Sunday, that she sent an email to Mr Coleman's office, why did he say in the House last Tuesday that there had been a marked improvement in the way patients are being managed in the unit? An answer that Jo Highton said sounds like the Minister is wiping his hands clean of dealing with problems at the unit.
The Honourable Jonathan Coleman.
Okay. Mr Speaker, I said that in the House last week because it's backed up by an independent report, and I'm quite happy to table that report in the House today for that gentleman's edification. So I seek leave to table.
Order. Leave is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is objection. Order. Question. Sorry, is this a point of order? Grant Robertson, point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I know that you don't approve of the seeking leave of the tabling of newspaper articles, but I think in the circumstances...
No, order. The member is quite correct. We don't table the articles from recent newspapers. The member will note that I accepted his question as being in order on the basis of what was in the newspaper. I think he's had the Speaker reasonably supportive of the question he was asking. Question number 10, Jonathan Young.